This is just a quick video to walk you through some of the particulars of my course, some of the more practical navigational issues you might come across to kind of give you an idea how to track your progress or your child's progress as we go throughout the school year. Kind of just a tutorial on what this self-pacing toward mastery model looks like. So to begin, you can see here I have up the homepage on Canvas for our course. But that's not quite where I want to start. I actually want to go over to um, this. This is what we call the unit overview sheet. This is your guide toward completing each learning target and toward completing each chapter. So as we move through each particular chapter, it is vital that students use this as a reference and as a way to self-reflect and to see where they are and where they are going as they progress toward mastery of the different concepts that we want them to learn in pre-algebra. Just a little bit on in the way of the philosophical side here. What this does is just not only does it teach them the math, and it teaches them to a high level because not only do they get practice, but they would get what Anders Ericsson calls deliberate practice as they work toward completing each task to at least an acceptable level of mastery or of precision. Not only do they learn the concepts, but they also learn some soft skills like being self-directed and being reflective. Major theme that we'll push in on again and again is just having mental toughness and being resilient. And one of the skills that this overview sheet really helps with is planning, being able to decide how to handle your home schedule with your school or your work schedule, and being able to set a goal and to work toward it. So that's again, and they could learn these mathematical concepts in any setting, but what the real benefit of doing it with the self-pacing models, we get to really explicitly teach some of those soft skills and give them the chance to grow as people and not just as math students, in addition to math students, I should say. So just kind of walking through some of the more details of the overview sheet we see here. On every chapter overview sheet, you'll see the statement of inquiry and the essential questions. You see a little blurb there on enrichment. We'll come back to that. But then you'll see each of these boxes is one learning target. So I can write and evaluate algebraic expressions. And then here we have a place for students to reflect and to decide what their level of understanding is on this. Ideally, by the time they're done doing all these practice problems, they will be at a level 5 and have a full confidence in their ability to master this content. So it always, 99% of the time, each lesson will start with a short clip of me teaching a lesson on the basics or anything like that. One thing I'll say about that is if you or your child is watching one of those clips and just has no clue what's going on, another one of those soft skills I really want to teach the kids is communication and advocacy. So I'm under no impression that watching a clip on YouTube is gonna is gonna help them learn. It might help a couple students who can do it, but if they need additional instruction, they can email me that night. They can tell me as soon as they get in the next day. Just communication is key to make sure that I can give them the help they need. We'll talk a little bit more later about what it actually looks like in class. But each lesson, like I said, we'll have a video and the note sheet for the kids to fill out just as if they were watching a lecture in class. Then there will usually be 2 or 3 assignments that will help them progress toward mastery of this target. And you'll see some of these are highlighted in yellow. All that means is that's an assignment that has an enrichment opportunity if the child so chooses. Again, we'll come back to that in a minute. You'll see some boxes underneath here. So as they complete this, like this is the work for the quick check, and this is the work for the basics. They'll submit their work to Canvas so that I can check it and give them some feedback on it. So they can check this box when the work is done, but then after I score it, which will be pretty quickly, for me, one of my main jobs that I see is to provide the kids feedback. Just as a coach would provide you feedback or on how you're shooting free throws, or a dance instructor would give you feedback on your form, or your band teacher gives you feedback on your notes or your expression in your music. Same thing goes for math. So when you turn in an assignment, one of the things that I view my job is to get you feedback on that assignment as quickly as possible. So in Canvas, then I will score that using my scoring rubric as either a 1, a 2, or a 3. A 1 means there are revisions that need to be made. Just like when you submit a paper, that's your rough draft. The editor comes back and says, okay, this is great. Here's what we need to fix. I'll do the same thing for each child's math and provide them some notes on Canvas or give them some one-on-one feedback in class so that they'll know what they need to go back and revise. So a 1 is just a placeholder. If they get a 1, they have to make revisions. If they get a 2, that means they have shown to me that they have mastered the concept and they understand it, at least to a level of proficiency, to where I would feel comfortable giving them a quiz or a test on that learning target. But it doesn't mean that they've shown that everything is perfect. So there are corrections to make. So students can show that extra effort to progress to a 3 out of 3, and are encouraged to do so. Um, if you know if they're able to, and if they need more help with doing that, I'm happy to provide that as well. We have finally this box down here is what they need to check if they feel like they need to study this a little bit more as they get ready for their quiz. So that's a way for them to self-reflect and prepare as the quiz comes up. So what students will do is they will work through each of these learning targets. And so this is kind of what we'll be doing in the first week or 2 of school, is working through these first 4 learning targets until they get to the quiz. Now, we do not have a designated quiz day. I have basically how this shakes out is it should take about a day to complete one box. Sometimes, like for instance with learning target 1, 2, the equations, some of those word problems are really tough. It might take a day and a half to complete a target. So I'll talk with you more about kind of how I'll communicate that, and how you'll kind of see what the pacing should be, the recommended pacing. Your kid might need more time on a topic. They might need less time. So they could do more than one box in a day. So if they, let's say they're doing combining like terms and they finish that up and they want to jump into inequalities, they've had some experience with that in the past. They a lot of them learned stuff like that in 6th grade, so they can jump right in there uh, and progress faster than the recommended pace if they like. If they're struggling with combining like terms, they need a little bit more instruction in class. Maybe it takes a day and a half instead of a day. We can do that as well. So I was talking about the quizzes, how there's not a specific designated quiz day where, everybody sits and I pass out the quizzes and everybody takes a quiz. You take the quiz when you have mastered each assignment, each task, and you've got a score of either 2 or 3 in Canvas. You're at 5 out of 5 on your level of understanding, and you're ready to go. So um, we do kind of set some guideposts along the way to let students know that, hey, you need to be here by this time, and students within a day or so will hit that. Um, but students take the quizzes when they've shown mastery. Same thing for tests. So once the first quiz is done, students go to the second half of the chapter here, on to the second quiz for chapter 1, and then they take the test, which includes all the learning targets for the entire chapter. So you'll also see here there's opportunities for more practice on those concepts. I can always provide additional materials for students if they need them. Again, this is a construct that lets me get students the help they need to be successful in class. So that's the unit overview sheet, kind of where all these materials are housed. Each of these little boxes within the larger boxes is a task that students need to complete on their way to showing mastery and to be ready for those assessments. All of that is housed in Canvas. So you see the 4 tiles here. You've already clicked on this, how this course works. There's the class procedures and IB syllabus here. You can click on that at your leisure. Enrichment, we'll get to that in a second. This is where students are going to come each day, is to the modules, and that's the same as they've done in Canvas in the past. But the different modules, you can see this is what it looks like on a laptop. Actually, yeah, this is from the teacher view, but this would be what would show up for the kids. You'll see how there's these larger headings here, and then underneath this, so this says algebraic expression. Here are all the activities and the resources for the algebraic expressions learning target. Here it is for the equations, for combining like terms, inequalities, and here's the first quiz. So just like it's laid out on the overview sheet, that's how it presents in Canvas as well. So students can access that through modules. They can access that through the calendar. So I was talking earlier about how you kind of keep track of when different things should be done and what are the recommended guideposts and guidelines. So you can see here, I've already posted, these are the assignments that we're gonna work to accomplish next week. So you see by the end of next week, you can cross-reference this with what's on the overview sheet. So they should have the quick check done by the end of the day Thursday. That it would include, if they need some class time, homework time, whatever. I anticipate that the majority of kids will finish that assignment and start in on the basics in class. So by the end of the week, we'll have that first learning target done as well as this project. So all those materials, you can click on these. These are links that will then take you to those assignments, or you can access them by going to modules. So you see the project here. Here's that class rules and procedures activity that was referenced. All that is there in modules or the calendar. So that is that's the way you can kind of access the materials. We talked about what those materials mean. We talked about the rubric 1, 2, 3. By the way, if it says a 0, so the only way that would show up is that, like, if we get to August 31st, which is a Saturday, but your child hasn't turned expressions basics in, that grade will default to a missing. So that would mean if you start to see zeros on homework assignments, that just means that your child is kind of falling off the pace a little bit, and might need to do a little catching up, and that's something that I can certainly help with. But that's just another way to communicate to you where we are. So that's another way we communicate pacing is through those grades. By the way, zeros never stay zeros. I'm very big on that. All that is communication to you and to the student that we need to work a little bit more on pacing, and there could be some focus issues in class that need addressed. On my end, there could be some homework issues at home that need to be addressed. As far as homework goes, I tell the kids you're doing 20 to 30 minutes of homework each night. I can't tell you exactly what that is because I don't know what you finished in class. So it's basically 20 to 30 minutes of whatever's next on the overview sheet. So every night, if you ask your kid, do you have homework? And they say no, it's not entirely accurate. Now, they might have done 20 to 30 minutes in 7th period, but that would mean they have homework in other classes as well. So you can check other, you'll notice over here on the right, I have all these other courses as well. You'll have, if as a parent, you'll have all their other courses on this Canvas calendar. So you'll be able to see everything that your kid owes. And that's a way to keep track of what's coming up. So we've talked about the unit overview sheet. We talked about the course itself, about grades. Enrichment, I wanted to touch on just briefly. My policy on enrichment is that any child can do enrichment at any time as long as they're keeping up and ahead of the minimum pace. So you saw back on the overview sheet, those activities in yellow have enrichment activities embedded with them as optional. Students can do those to earn what's called mastery points, and that's something I'm working with Mr. Wilson on to develop. So more details will be emerging on that in the future. It'll actually be it's a really neat little project. I'm excited about it, and it will actually make communication with you about your child's pacing even better than it already will be as the year starts. You'll see I'm very big on communication. So all the enrichment activities are here under the enrichment tile, or if you go to these particular targets on the yellow highlighted activities on the overview sheet, that's where I've embedded them within the modules. Again, those are optional for anybody. For me, that's not based on the pre-test. It's kind of based on, are you keeping up with what you need to keep up with? So the last thing I wanted to talk with you about was kind of communicating progress for your child, because I know This can be difficult, and as your child gets older, it's harder and harder to provide support for them. I know I'm very grateful whenever parents want a partner, and I do view parents as partners, as vital partners. So um, I do look forward to that partnership with you. The overview sheet is the first line of defense. Obviously, that's a way to self monitor, but the way you can check on your child to see if they're actually doing that, they should be updating these scores. Look at the grades in Canvas. And so that's just, I won't click on it in here because that reveals the whole grade book for me. So that's an option over on the left on the iPad app. Grades can show there, and you can see their individual scores um, and see where they are. If it's completed, it'll have a score. I grade incessantly. My colleagues will attest to that. So my goal is to not leave the building until all my assignments are graded, which is usually around 4 o'clock, and I try to be pretty efficient unless there's meetings. I grade in the morning. I love my coffee, so I'll grade with my cups of coffee in the morning. Um, and I'll grade throughout the day. Again, it's all about getting the kids that feedback as quickly as I can and letting them know how they're progressing toward mastery. I also send out weekly emails. So every Monday morning before I come in, again with my morning coffee, see a theme emerging, I will send you parents an email kind of letting you know what we did the prior week and where we're heading. Occasionally, I'll send out additional emails throughout the week if I have to make changes. And obviously, the calendar. The calendar will be pretty regularly updated. So if I see, oh, we're not going to get that quick check done today, all I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll move it over there. So that change will pop up on the student's iPad, and so this calendar is fairly live. You saw how easy it was for me to switch the due date like that. So um, that's a way for you to keep track as well. I think that's it. As always, you can always reach out to me as well if you have any concerns about your child. Honestly, sorry about that. Honestly, email is probably the fastest way to do so because I'm always on email and I'm always checking, and I can get back to you quickly. If you prefer a phone message, I understand. It just we won't get as fast a turnaround time on my response because I have to wait for a time when I'm free. Um, so yeah, always feel free to reach out. I wanted to direct you also to my website on the school district website. So this has a lot more about my philosophy and how how I got so weird. Kind of the research I've done on my end that kind of led me to this place. So that's all as far as kind of this site kind of has everything with my expectations and philosophy and things like that. So it also has my email address if you need it. Um, yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I hope this video is helpful in helping you to support your child and to partner with me as we work toward developing them not just as math students, but as learners and as young people as well.